Cole. Mr. Corley.
Here.
Dr. Eloy is excused. Dr. Fountain is excused. Dr. Gray.
Here.
Mr. Geis has a proxy. Mr. Durrett.
Here.
Mr. Javia.
Here.
Mr. Jones. Not in attendance. Dr. Joseph is excused. Mr. Martin has a proxy. Mr. Ogeron. Dr. Ortling.
Here.
Mr. Powell has a proxy. Ms. Alford. Here. Ms. Stilley. Here. Dr. Stokes. Here. Ms. Strong is not in attendance. Mr. Touche. Not in attendance. Dr. Van Meter.
Here.
Dr. Boyeron.
Here.
Dr. Walker.
Here.
And Dr. Williams.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. First agenda item are the approval of the minutes from September 30th, 2024. I have a motion to approve.
Make motion.
Stilley. Second. Second by Mr. Byler. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, that motion passes. Our next agenda item is consideration of content standards review process and timeline. Get a motion to receive, please. Come on.
Second.
Second by Dr. Williams, put by Dr. Bowman. Okay. And we present this agenda on Dr. Brown. Dr. Orland, did you recognize Dr. Keenan with the governor's office by chance? I have not, and I'm sorry. Please, thank you for joining us. Okay, thank you. While Dr. Chasson comes, that's very loud today. While Dr. Chasson comes up for the presentation, just wanted to share a few bits of information as she makes her way up. One is, wanted to call out the board policy that was recently passed in an attempt between the board members to communicate with locally elected school board members. The board passed a policy instructing the department to communicate any of the KPIs that are aligned to BESI and or department priorities and the status of those KPIs and how that might relate not just at the state but also in local systems. And the desire there from the board was to make sure that there was increased communication between those priorities with locally elected board members. And so that was a policy that the board passed, and that explains why your board received an email and you were or should have been copied onto that email. I want to also just acknowledge that you should have only received content related to your system, not all of the neighboring systems. So I wanted to acknowledge that. And then the second item is wanted to let you know that our intended date for SPS, DPS release is November 20th. So if you need to ready your comm staff in any particular way around that or your public, that would be November 20th. And as always, that's the public release date. So we'll load that information up for you slightly in advance of that. But that's what we are shooting for. And at this point, Dr. Chesson, I'm going to make a presentation on something that I'm really excited about, which is the updating of content standards. I think it's an opportunity to make a real difference, particularly from the learnings that we've had over the last decade about what's really important in both English language arts and the approach that we've taken there, but also what we're trying to do with math. And so the more that we've talked about this as a team, the more excited that I have gotten about the opportunity that this is. So Dr. Chesson, you're
Thank you, Dr. Bromley. Good afternoon, everyone. As Dr. Bromley mentioned, we are looking forward to our review of both the ELA and math standards as a state. The last time these standards were reviewed and revised were back in 2015, 2016. And Bulletin 741 does ask us to review and revise these standards every 7 years. And so we are at time to do that work. And so at the October BESI meeting, we brought to BESI an interest in bringing these through a review and revision process in which BESI agreed with us embarking on this process. And so we will bring a draft of the process and a timeline to the December BESI meeting for approval. So those are really the next few slides that I wanted to put before you today, so everyone has an idea of some of the goals that we are seeking in this review process, as well as the timeline and how that might impact you as a school system. So we have some clear review goals for both ELA and math, and these We've also heard that there is a need to really reinforce language standards, including grammar, usage, and mechanics, especially in grades 9 through 12. This is something we've heard from you all as superintendents, something we've heard from school system leaders and educators across the state, especially when it comes to that ACT alignment. So this is something we're especially excited to do, is really reinforce grammar, usage, and mechanics, especially in those secondary grade levels. And then finally for ELA, provide World, American, and Louisiana reading text complexity, quality, and range exemplars for each grade band. For math, in alignment with what we've heard and seen across the state, there is a desire to strengthen the foundational skills standards progression to ensure the development of more advanced skills, including logic and reasoning. Also identify relevant mathematics pathways for students in grades 9 through 12, aiming for success in college, career, or service. So we want to, once again, really strengthen the foundational skills in math and then what that leads to in later student outcomes. We do have precedent set around how we run review committees here at the state level. And so looking back at how we've done that historically, we will have a steering committee that includes 15 members. And the steering committee is the committee that is going to vote and make final recommendations to BESI. The work groups will be made up of content experts who will bring their work before the steering committee. The content work groups review public content, and there's also some cross. There are some work group members who are also on the steering committee, so they can bring to the steering committee the conversations, discussions, and progress of the work groups. And so a lot of the real granular work is done in those content committees and then brought to the larger steering committee. This next slide is just a look at our timeline, which really kicks off this December when we plan to bring to our board the standards revision process and timeline for approval. That would mean that we would then open applications to serve on the steering and work group committees in January, really following that December BESI meeting. And we would then be prepared to bring to the March BESI meeting the membership of those committees for BESI approval. And that would give those committees time to really dig into their work from April through July. And of course, as part of the process, all of these standards would then be posted for public comment throughout July and August. And we would bring a final draft of the recommended standards to BESI for consideration in October. So this would lead during the 2025-2026 school year for an instructional material review process and professional learning for our educators for full implementation in the 2026-2027 school year. This is something we are really looking forward to as a department and as a team. We know that there are improvements that can be made to our existing ELA and math standards, and we are excited to work with practitioners across the state in really making sure we get these standards right. That concludes my update.
For committee questions, comments? One comment. I think it's really important to tap the experts from within your school systems for some of the expertise here. So whenever you see this application go public on the timeline Dr. Chesson mentioned, please be sure and spread that around to some of the individuals that you know might be a benefit for the state in doing this work. Really excited on the English piece to make sure everything's aligned with the science of reading, to pull in some rich text that are prominent throughout American history. From that perspective, from the grammar perspective, and making sure that we're properly embedding grammar to all extents possible, because we've heard a lot of conversation around that with ACT from you all in the past, which I think is right. And then on the math piece, really going into those foundational content and the test, right? Between LEAP and ACT, and how our high schools struggle to prepare for both, and it being within the accountability formula. So what is the actual plan when you say include ACT? Are you talking about an actual evaluation and inclusion of, or I guess a bridge of college readiness standards, along with the current content standards, Louisiana English content standards? Can you kind of explain a little further, what do you anticipate that to actually look like?
So this process is a review of ELA and math content standards. And we know that the current ELA standards do include language standards. However, they are not maybe as prominent or as specific as they would need to be in order for educators to really gain a full understanding of the grammar, the usage, the mechanics that we know is tested in ACT and a very big part of ACT, of that English section. And so that's why that's one of the goals of this review process.
Somewhere along that same vein, in anticipating forward, obviously, a few things. LEAP 2025 set to end 2025. And we talk about the curriculum that will be aligned to the potential new standards. You know, what is potential? I know nothing's obviously firmly in step, but what do you anticipate, the department anticipate that to look like in the meantime during that transition, and where are we headed?
Yeah, I think there are a lot of steps that have to work in concert with each other. And I think that those are good considerations that we have to make as we go through this process. I mean, I know that even though we hear from time to time about alignment, you know, we believe we have strong alignment, but we also know that it could always improve. And we also have heard what has been said about ACT and ways to strengthen that alignment. And so I think that we're interested in trying to find a path forward in those areas. But you know, we're not laying out today, here's exactly what we're going to do, just because we want the process to unfold with the experts in the field to support that. But everyone needs to be engaged in it, because English and math, you know, probably as important as anything else in the educational space is what we have to get right now.
Dr. Barney?
We also consider 6th, 7th, and 8th grade when we look at addressing our content standards as it relates to the language and trying to prepare our kids for ACT, because ACT right now, the skills are also introduced in the lower grades as well. So I noticed on here it says 9 through 12, and you're going to focus on science and reading K-5, but I was just wondering about the middle school piece. And also,
Oh, no, I just wanted to say absolutely, Dr. Bartholomew, that's something that'll be, we know a lot of those skills that are tested in ACT actually go all the way down into elementary school. So we're calling out specifically here in the goal 9 through 12 because we know that focus on ACT and the English section of ACT, but those language standards will be emphasized throughout.
And then the other point to that is, you know, it's important that we look at that in the middle school, but kind of across the band in K-12, the standards review and the standards will necessitate us then looking at assessment and determining, you know, how does assessment then align to the standards. So it's not as if there wouldn't be work on both ends there, because those things are going to have to match.
and my second point is, could we also include training for our teachers? Because right now, it is not happening at the high school level. A lot of teachers are content specific. So I'm thinking if we introduce this at the high school level, we're definitely going to need some training and support behind that, possibly even at our preparation programs as well.
Quick question, Greg. We know we have the application process that's going to take place. Have y'all kind of delineated like who or what types of people within those content areas that y'all want to target? And do you have a breakdown of what that looks like?
We do. We have a more specific breakdown that we'll be bringing to Bessie in December that really spells out the experts and the grade band educators who will be represented on the work groups.
And so is this an application process just for the work groups, or has the steering committee already been established?
It's an application process for both.
Okay, thank you.
Were you wanting to be on the steering committee? That's what I heard.
I heard that.
I plead the fifth.
Okay, any other comment or 2, consideration of an update report regarding third grade promotion. Dr. Brumman? I have a motion to receive, sorry. Dr. Gray? Second by Mr. Javier. All in favor? Aye.
This next item is really just a reminder of some things to really keep top of mind right now. I know we continue to talk about the third grade promotion legislation, but just something to keep top of mind as we head into nearly the midpoint of the school year. Believe it or not, now that we've turned from that first into the second 9 weeks. But a reminder of the legislation that prohibits promotion to the fourth grade of some students who are falling into that well below category. And so just a reminder of those things that need to take place and just really emphasizing here the importance of those individual reading plans, the plans for those students, and the tutoring and interventions that should be provided for students who are most at risk of retention for next school year. And so we just have a few reminders up here from our team. So reviewing that beginning of the year data to determine areas of growth and decline, ensuring that you have made contact with those families of your third grade students and that they've received beginning of the year reports and communication that you flagged for especially those families of students who are falling into those lower categories of the screener results that their child could be at risk. And then ensuring daily targeted small group interventions and progress monitoring. I can't emphasize enough the importance of the progress monitoring. And the importance of the frequency in which you are doing progress monitoring for those tier 3 students who are falling at risk. Really, progress monitoring should be taking place every 2 weeks for the students in that lowest achievement level. And then preparing for summer learning opportunities. So really starting to frame up what will it look like once that first wave of the screener occurs and you identify those students with those EOI results, those end of year results. And then prior to that second administration, what interventions will take place, who will do the interventions, how you identify what students need, and then into that third administration. Also flagging that now is a great time to plan for what you will do as a team and what your school leaders will do as a team around those mid-year results. So middle of year screening is really meant to be a larger progress monitoring tool. That's how we look at it. And so making a plan for when mid-year screening takes place and then what you are doing with those results to make adjustments and plans for the second half of the school year. We have been really excited to see some strong interventions within tutoring programs taking place across the state. And we've seen a lot of effort made towards instructional coherence that we're really, really happy to see. A lot of time and effort of leaders and educators thinking very intentionally around what is happening during core instruction and how does it connect during that extra time to learn. We are seeing a lot of intention around that. That's something I'm really excited about and proud of. And we are seeing a lot of focus there. And I think that's going to make a large difference for these students who are the most at risk to receive instruction during that extra time to learn that aligns with and prepares them for their upcoming core instruction.
Without going into too much detail, I just want to affirm to you that the work that you're doing on this literacy piece in early grades is working. We have some data that is indicating this. More information coming out about that in the near future. But I just want to tell you it is working and continue to keep the press on because I think it's making a tremendous difference with kids. Okay, any questions, comments? Dr. Roy?
Yes, we've had some communication back and forth via email in regards to section C, letter E in Act 422 regarding the good cause components, which that particular provision calls for an alternative assessment approved by them. And so I'm not going to go through everything we go on in these emails with, but I do want to point out that I asked about this at the last meeting, and the answer we learned after was really in reference to students who are Leap Connect kids, kids who qualify for alternative assessment. My request continues to be to have the alternative assessment approved by Bessie being more in line to what the screener is that we're making the decision on. Dibbles at the end of third grade will indicate whether or not a child is reading on level based upon oral reading fluency. That's it. It doesn't take into consideration comprehension. And I certainly don't want to see teachers in my parish, nor anywhere else, training kids to pronounce words at a fast rate and not truly working on comprehension of the text that they're reading. LEAP is a approved assessment, but it's not a reading diagnostic. It's a content-based assessment. So I'm going to keep this at the forefront from my standpoint, because retaining kids in early grades is also a very high indicator of a dropout rate. So I ask, passionately that LDOE works to identify an alternative screener that's not a content-based assessment, which is what LEAP is, but is not strictly measuring on the rate. And we all recognize that, automaticity in being able to read fluently is a component of reading on level, but it's not the only thing. So I just want to ask that we continue looking for that, because July is going to be here before we know it, and we've got a group of kids who do not have a label on them that would not qualify for any of these good cause things. And they may be kids who just read a little slower than others, but they're comprehending at a pretty high rate.
Any comment on that, Dr. Chesson, or?
As Dr. Farman mentioned, we've had some good email communication, and I've already assured him via email that we're happy to continue researching to find a solution for the challenge that he's brought to us.
Yes, sir. So the question's also around the good cause provision, and it's specifically for folks with dyslexia. So as our folks go, pupil appraisal goes to evaluate those folks, the question is, I'm assuming we're going to be required to administer the core assessment on that, and if so, is there funding provided for that, or is this just going to be on us? Is that, what I'm asking is, I'm assuming is that the determining factor for the dyslexia piece there?
Hey, just to give a little bit of clarity about that, Ashley Townsend. Oh, sorry, I pushed on it. Is it on? Don't worry. Hi, okay, so the Ashley Townsend with the department, good to see everybody today. A couple of notes on the dyslexia. It is specified in the statute that is a diagnosis of dyslexia, and so I know there are varying degrees of capacity at district levels to actually provide that diagnosis, but that's the level for that one. As far as the core assessment, there was legislation this year that created a dyslexia fund, and it was funded to some extent with some money to offset the cost of that core assessment. Bessie approved policy related to how that will work at the October meeting. It's anticipated to be final February 20th. And the funding guidance for how that can be administered and applied will be available at the time the policy is final as well. So you should see some more information coming out about that in the next couple of months. $500, which we know it can vary in how much it costs from place to place and provider to provider, but that is at least some funding that can help offset that cost.
And you said finalized in February?
Yes, sir.
Awesome. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, any
Any other committee comment, questions? Okay, any public comment? No public comment. Okay, that moves us to our next agenda item, consideration of an update report regarding the high school AI tutoring pilot. Can I get a motion to receive? Dr. Williams?
Second.
Dr. Medford? All in favor?
Aye.
So we know that providing a high-quality teacher for every student is of the utmost importance. We also know that we can't expect for the staffing of schools in the state of Louisiana to happen in the same way that it happened 40 or 50 years ago, or even 10 years ago. And we know that we have tried, and Bessie has tried, and the legislature has tried to break down various barriers that would prevent people from coming into the teaching profession if they were intelligent, competent, passionate, you had a desire to hire them. We have tried to break down those barriers. One of the emerging spaces, so to speak, revolves around virtual instruction programs, and we all learned a lot about that through COVID, what did and did not work. We also know that we heralded Calcasieu as a model of excellence for their VIP program, their VIP program out there, where they have their high schools on the same bell schedule, and they're able to provide synchronous learning instruction in various content areas across the entire system. And so when we think about the evolving world of making sure that every student has access to a teacher, one of the spaces that also has to be considered is AI, and what AI might look like and how that might play a role moving forward. We recently released, after having a work group work through a process, AI guidelines, an initial set of AI guidelines on how to support the implementation of AI in schools in a safe and appropriate way. And through conversations with various individuals in the field, I know you are dabbling with that in various ways, which is good. But I also asked Adam on our team to work and try to work with some of you all who would have interest in your LEAP 2025 tests at the high school level, those EOCs, if you would be interested in a pilot for AI tutoring specifically tied to those 6 courses. So in the same way that you have tutoring efforts or student centers or work groups in your elementary schools, you could match that in your high schools through utilization of an AI approach there as well. And so I know Adam reached out, and I know some of you wanted to participate in that. I think Dr. Ortland, you guys are beginning that process, and I think Tommy, maybe you guys too. So some of you are beginning the process there. We need to learn from that because this is not something that's going away, and so we need to make sure that we're learning from that and doing the right things there. And also just want to mention that after Adam from our team provides the presentation, if you have any interest in engaging in this work, let us know. I don't know that we have an identified funding source right now post-ESSER to be able to solve that for you right now, but our commitment would be, if you have interest, let us know and let us try to help figure it out for you. And so at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Adam to make a presentation.
Thank you, Dr. Brumley. Adam DiBenedetto, I'm with the Department Director of Academic Innovation. So to preface the list of participating systems, I just wanted to let you know that I know we're in November now, which seems like a late start to this pilot, but this pilot will actually run for the remainder of this academic year as sort of our learning time, and then into that following year. So Khan Academy has given us that extension since we did get a late start. And I will also say that the late start was because following our guidance, our AI guidance that we did publish, sorry, this is very hot. So publishing our guidance, one of the important facets of that was that we ensure student data privacy and that student information was protected as well as employee information. And so a lot of that process took time, and so this is through an opt-in data sharing agreement that you would be a part of this pilot. And so none of that burden is on the school system to try to figure out those details. We would just opt you into that, like similar pilots have been done. But this pilot in particular has 11 school systems currently, and you can see those listed on the slide there. At least 2 of those, I know the superintendents are here today in attendance. And this is part of our AI-powered tools pilot. So this is one of the several tools that we are piloting across the state. And this in particular is an AI-powered assistant. And so much like ChatGPT or Gemini, a similar AI-powered chatbot would help answer questions, or you could engage in that iterative process with it. This is exactly what Conmigo does, but in more of a protected space here for our students and teachers. And so the scope of this pilot, I just wanted to give you a brief overview. We're providing specifically high school students and their teachers with this Conmigo chatbot that can answer questions and once again engage with them in helping to work through problems or any particular challenges or difficulties they may be having. That might be from a math problem to having issues with writing something in particular, or maybe a teacher struggling to understand how to teach a particular facet of his or her curriculum. And so in this pilot, you would receive information like, number 1, weekly and monthly usage, seeing what teachers and students are doing, how they are engaging with Conmigo. It would also give you the most common uses for the tool. So are they engaging with working through exercises? Are teachers asking questions about how to teach this particular problem or teach this particular facet of their curriculum to students? It provides a log of everything that students type into the chatbot. So teachers can go back and review everything. Administrators can also go back and review all of the conversations that are happening. If students do enter something inappropriately into the chatbot, which we're all educators, we know that happens, it actually will cut off the chat and send a message directly to the administrator and also the teacher who is rostered to that class. And then it also logs the common features that, once again, teachers are using. So we could see how the teachers are engaging with that, how the teachers are assigning particular parts of this or exercises to the students, and what are those common features that we have among those. And so I gave a little example here to illustrate what the dashboard would look like. This is one of the dashboards that I thought was pretty helpful here. We can see the percentage of students who are active on this dashboard. You can also see how many chats are being held per student with the chat bot. It tells you the exact number of students who have been active in that particular week. And this can be broken down even further on a day-to-day basis or by class period as well. And then you can see here that it's, obviously we're just starting, so usage is a little bumpy right now. So you can see that it's showing the previous week usage this has been a drop from the previous week. And then you can see the top activities. So did the student ask to be tutored in math or science? Was there something involved with the humanities that they asked for? Did they ask for Conmigo to help them focus? So you can see the breakdown of each of those activities right there. And then you can see the exercises. I did want to highlight that piece. The number 1 on the top activities would show how many teachers are assigning exercises to students. They can choose a particular problem to assign to an entire class period, or they could assign it to just some students in particular. And I do want to also highlight that I was able to attend professional development yesterday for Livingston Parish in their launch of this, and it was well attended. We had many teachers asking lots of questions, which is good. They were excited about the use of this and having this to assist them, especially what I heard yesterday was that they're not always able to get to that particular student in a timely manner, having so many students in a classroom at the same time. And so having this as an option to support students when they may just have a simple question that maybe this AI chatbot can answer, they were very excited about that opportunity. So we look forward to, and I look forward to providing you with some more impact numbers, engagement numbers in the future. And as Dr. Brumley said, we have roughly 20,000 students rostered as of now. And so if any of you are interested in also being a part of this, I won't make you type my last name, but the digital learning at LE.gov inbox is one that I'm connected to, so I'll be glad to respond to you and get you on board. And that concludes my update.
Any questions or comments from the committee?
I just have a question. Who do we contact if we want to get involved?
And that's why I said probably his last name is not the easiest, so if you look at the bottom,
Digital learning.
it's a digital learning.
Okay.
I want to, Dr. before you, I just want to thank Ken and Tommy for agreeing to participate in this. I mean, we're going to learn a lot from it, what works and what doesn't work, and so we can't do that without willing participants. So I just wanted to publicly thank you all for agreeing to participate in that. And while my team is going to be upset, I'm going to say it again, if you have interest in this and you want to be a part of it, let me know, and I'll try to find a way to fund, if at all possible.
And before I recognize Dr. Gray, I will just say that I know my team is very excited about the potential here. I know it just kind of started kicking off, but from what they've seen is potentially, has the potential to fill in some gaps where we're lacking some support. So we appreciate the opportunity, Dr. Gray.
Yeah, quick question. Is there any way that the program actually tracks the type of questions that they're actually asking? And does it kind of develop like patterns of where they're seeing gaps to where it can inform the teachers of what they need to do in terms of their core instruction in relationship to this?
Yes, so it does have a feature that will track the themes or maybe common issues that students are facing. And what I've been assured by the Khan Academy team is that if there is a feature that is more specific that systems do want through this pilot program, they would be glad to build that out with their team of developers. But yes, it can track specific issues that students are having or common questions that they're asking to the chatbot.
Thank you.
Does Khan Academy with this, I mean, we just had a discussion around artificial intelligence in a staff meeting that I had this morning in terms of, do they have a module or something for us to teach kids responsibility of artificial intelligence?
So I would say I've not seen anything specific as far as a course in artificial intelligence with Khan Academy. I can get more information for you on that, but I will also point you to, we have several digital citizenship and digital literacy documents that are linked in our AI guidance. That would probably be helpful. We also have some more specific documents coming out that are tied to utilizing AI with specific content areas that we are, the academic content team is currently developing, and so I'll be glad to share those with you when they are published as well.
Great. And Louis, we'll send you what we already have too, so you'll have that, and that way you'll have Adam's contact too. And just as a reminder, my charge to Adam on this was focus on those 6 courses that are those LEAP 2025 courses where, we felt like, there could be an opportunity for additional support. So that is the focus area of this pilot.
If I could just make a comment, Mr. Fennell, thank you for your report. I know we have some public comment. But perhaps if you want to continue providing this update, because I think this is something that all systems, especially you would like to not necessarily play, but at least experiment in this field, right, to take advantage of these opportunities. But perhaps bring a demonstration so that I think perhaps we can be a little bit more engaged even further from that standpoint.
And I'll offer that Adam is more than willing to do that one-on-one, jump on the Zoom with any of you and walk through any of this personally for any key members of your team.
And I know there was a link embedded with what we saw with my district that will provide kind of like an overview and that goes through that process. So, thank you. Any other comments from committee members? Okay, I believe we have Mr. Ronnie Morris, President of Betsy, would like to speak.
We're okay? Yeah, there we go. Yeah, so I just wanted to, that I'm very excited, the board is very excited about Louisiana's position right now in the AI conversation. We acknowledge Superintendent Brumley and his team for getting us ahead of the curve here, publishing the guidelines before the start of school, or at the start of school this year. I think that puts us in a really good position so that we're all on the same page. There are some guardrails in place to help get us started and keep us out of the ditch. I was very impressed when I first saw the tool. It was a year ago now. Superintendent Brumley sat down with Sal Khan and had a demonstration, and I played with it for half an hour or so, and very impressed with it. the benefits to the teacher as well as to the students. Recognize that a lot of our teachers are spread thin across a heterogeneous classroom, and I think this will help to engage students that maybe were having trouble getting engaged previously, because maybe they were embarrassed to ask that question, in the back of the class, and now they can engage, and nobody knows they're talking to the teacher, right, or asking a silly question or whatnot, and then they're re-engaged in the conversation, or at least have the opportunity to be. So just really excited about that, really excited about the response from you guys, and really curious, interested to hear, obviously, what kind of feedback we get from students and teachers. But my question is, what's the plan with regard to assessing the benefits? Can you share a little bit of that with us? Thank you.
So as we begin to collect this data, we hope that focusing on what the scope is of the pilot, Mr. Morris, I would like to be able to compile that data, what we see as far as student engagement, teacher engagement, what the impacts were on learning. I know that Khan Academy has also offered their research team to assist in looking at some of that data with us, but I would be glad to compile that and report that to Bessie and this group obviously as well, if asked, and kind of show what some of those impacts are. So we're hoping to see improvement obviously in not only usage, we talk about usage a lot, but ensuring that the work we're doing and to pilot these programs and these different software or devices, we would see some improvement in student learning. And so I will definitely be glad to share whatever we find, whatever our findings are from this, along with the help of the Khan research team as well. They plan to do their own research throughout this pilot. And, but yeah, I'll be glad to share those findings as soon as we have them.
I mean, and the other piece of that is just the qualitative aspect of just being in conversations with school leaders and system leaders and teachers and tracking individual student data throughout the year. I mean, I just think that personal aspect is also really important.
So I will also add to that, Mr. Morris, that we do with the Amira Learning Pilot, which I know several systems in this room are engaged in, there are surveys sent out that ask for input from teachers, from superintendents, from the district level personnel or system level personnel who oversee that. And so for instance, in my last Bessie update, I provided one from a principal and also a teacher, a first grade teacher who used Amira Learning in the classroom. And so that's been super helpful. I've already reached out, whether they know it or not, I've already reached out to get some qualitative feedback from teachers and those who are overseeing this particular pilot to see what on the onset, how we can improve, obviously looking at continuous improvement, how we can improve engaging teachers and those who will be using this particular tool with professional development so we can improve upon that as well.
And Mr. Morris, to your question too, we also have data sharing agreement with them so that we can use the information to do our own independent analysis as well.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll bring it back to the committee. Any other further questions, comments?
I have a quick question.
Dr. Stokes.
How long did it take for the teachers to learn how to use the program?
So I will say, obviously that's relative to each place, but I think what I saw yesterday is that in Livingston Parish, their technology facilitator had already provided the demo accounts that Conmigo had done. Demo accounts were given, obviously, to those who would be helping pilot it so they could learn it a little bit before the launch. They also have logins. Many teachers, we were able to look at that, already have Khan Academy accounts. And so they're actually able to link those very easily and give them the full access to the program. And then looking at that, I will say from my standpoint, which I understand I'm a younger person here in the room, but it is a little bit more easily accessible because it's a little bit more a part of not only teachers using it, but students as well. They're very savvy when it comes to technology. I will say, having taught junior high, they knew much more than I did, even as a younger person. I won't say that for a third time.
Take the mic.
I think everyone understands why Adam is in this role. And he's the perfect fit for this particular endeavor. So moving on to the next question.
No, but we will provide, if there is any more support that we get from the qualitative feedback, I'm glad to incorporate that and ask the con team. I've been very clear with the professional development that it should walk teachers through each step, because up to now, we've not had anything like this in the classroom, and everything was done through, teachers utilizing these programs on their own. And so connecting this to the education and classroom aspect of it has been different, but we plan to face those challenges at home. So.
Okay, any other comment, questions from the whole committee? Before adjourning, I believe Mr. Walker wanted to make a comment or two perhaps about this.
So I've gotten a couple questions from Dr. Orton about, we originally started out calling it Bessie Tours, but we have rebranded it thanks to the department, our Bridging Success Tour. And it's a twofold mission. One is to bring the Bessie Board and its members to the local districts around the state. And it's also to help introduce the idea and the concepts around the work-based learning requirements and all of that that's going into the new system. So we designed a program with hopes of addressing some of the concerns that have been raised and bringing the various constituent groups to the table on a localized level in a conversation that's being driven by LDOE and Bessie. And so that the overall goal is to create a marriage, if you will, and to provide you with some resources and some guidance forward and some how-to complete this task. And so one of the components is we're going to bring business and industry to you. We're going to bring some model programs to you, some programs of excellence that's already going on around the state that can be a benefit from you. We're not telling you you have to adopt that particular model or that particular program, but our goal is to show you 5 or 6 different programs that's running around the state, and you might can pick it apart and combine them and come up with something that you can work with. And using Mr. Morris's idea, we don't want to just give you a clean sheet of loose leaf paper. We want to put some things on that white paper for you to help you along. And so we will be doing these tours around the state. The first one is in Baton Rouge, and all the metropolitan Baton Rouge superintendents, I believe 9 of you should have gotten invitations at this point. Please accept those invitations. The invitation is not only for the superintendent, but also anybody on that person's leadership team that focuses on the workforce development, not continuing education. I'm trying to, my law license is about to expire. It's in the back of my head. The CTEs and work-based learnings, anybody who does that type of work in your district, they are invited to attend. The emails will come from Kevin Colbert in my office, who's our communication manager, and I want to give him a public shout out. I kind of gave him the vision and some bullet points, and he has brought this thing to life, bringing together local chambers of commerce, regional economic development groups, all the industry-based folks, and all of those ed partners from the community college and higher ed. All of those folks will be in the same room together to talk through some of those issues and how can they assist you in accomplishing in those goals. So if you have any questions about the Bessie Tour, or you want a different element that you might think is important in your area, please let us know, and we are more than willing to incorporate those things into the program. Also, I want you to think about in your area if there's a program that you want to showcase, because one component of the tour stop is to showcase the good work that is going on in the district. I'm not going to give away the Baton Rouge one, but we're going to showcase a center in Baton Rouge that's doing some really, really good work where industry and the school system has combined its efforts. And there's going to be about 200 kids that are going to be there doing work-based learning, credentialing type work that that people will get to see doing that tour. So I will stop if Mr. Morris has anything he want to add or any questions that you might have on the Bessie side of the house.
I think you summarized it really well. For me, the two main objectives are, number one, to help communities across the state appreciate the value of the initiative, both for students, for parents, for teachers, and school leaders, as well as business community. So number one, we want to help folks across the state appreciate the value. And then secondly, as Mr. Walker said, we want to help folks with the how-to. And again, as he said, we bring in proven models across the state. Folks have 4 or more years with the program implementation to share that with you. And then again, also, as Mr. Walker said, we appreciate there's no silver bullet that's going to work everywhere, but we do know that with proven models that you're able to see, pick from here and there, and plug and play in your system. It's just a matter of identifying the folks on your team that are the best fit. So those are the two main objectives for us at this time, and we certainly look forward to working with you and keeping at the table with business leaders in your community, as well as other communities, and see what we can learn from one another to build these relationships and provide these opportunities for our students.
Before opening it up, first of all, we appreciate the update. I think the primary, request from us for Ms. Walker to bring this, because not many superintendents were aware of exactly what was taking place. So some were receiving messages, which is why I brought it to your attention. So thank you for that update. And while this is not going to be a forum to go down some of the concerns that we had expressed, through previous meetings and hearings, I will say, just from talking to superintendents, I would recommend having some supports around the equity and access piece, right? While I think we all want to learn from each other, we want to replicate the great things that are taking place across many of our school systems as it relates to workplace experiences. The concerns that I hear over and over again are the access to places to actually send students, and that equity piece, for the most part, are where the primary concerns lie, right? And while East Baton Rouge may be a great place to see some of these great workplace experiences, there are many communities throughout our state that do not have that access to those type of places and experiences. And I'm not speaking just, obviously not on behalf of me, but many superintendents at this table, as well as throughout our entire state. So I just ask that you all bring and really focus, at least to bring to the table, some of those things that help these systems, all systems, overcome those challenges that we've expressed several times.
I want to mention too, like Mr. Walker, although he's been in the job how many months now?
No, 73 days.
73 days. He comes from the workforce sector in government, so he has an understanding of some of the work that's happening over on the workforce side as well, which I think is a good marriage for some of the work he's being tasked to do right now.
So I'll open it up, just remind the committee, this is really not an agenda item, but certainly, I think Mr. Walker opened it up for any questions or.
And one piece that I forgot to mention, the final piece of the day is a private conversation with Betsy, its staff, and LDOE leadership. So there will be a forum for us to engage as well at each of these stops. That will be the final piece of the day.
I think there's that one question, just in listening to our group chats and when we have our Zoom meetings, the questions around this really center around, if we could get kind of just an overview of the plan of what regions, because where our questions and concerns started, because we heard about the one in Baton Rouge because the superintendent posted. And then there was a scramble of, well, do I need to go to the one in Baton Rouge? And so if there could be an overview and a kind of a timeline, like when are we looking at, as we host our regional meetings, those are some of the concerns. If there's just what areas of the state are you planning to go to? If we could just get that down the road, I think that would help ease some of the questions that came from our superintendent.
Right, so over the weekend, I told Dr. Ortman, I'm a military guy, I can take it on the chin, so that communication piece is on me. Because I thought, as I told him in text, that it was more important for me to hammer out the plan of where we're gonna go before I announce it. Because a lot of it's up in the air, because what we wanna do is also be cost effective, right? And so we are utilizing spaces of economic development authorities. And so we believe we have Lafayette lined up for early December. And we believe we have New Orleans lined up latter January, and the North Shore we have lined up mid-February. And so that is as far as we've gotten. And so that's on me because I held back on making that announcement because I wasn't sure on the dates, the times, the locations, and those things. But that is how far we are currently. And obviously, we're gonna make our way up 49, up to the other parts of the state. But that, we're 3 months into, and the goal is we would like to have 2 per month. But obviously, that depends on space, availability, and those things. And what we really wanted to do, because we thought it was important to bring business and industry, right? We didn't want to add another meeting to their calendar. We wanted to piggyback on whatever they had in place already. So for instance, Lafayette Economic Regional Development Authority meets on X day. Well, we wanted to go on that X day, so they were all there, they were all in the room, instead of adding an additional calendar, event to their calendar to make it more convenient for them to come and have that discussion and to hear from you all.
Any other comment, Dr. Roy?
Yeah, when is the Baton Rouge one? I'm in the Baton Rouge region, and I don't recall getting that.
It's the 19th,
November 19th.
November 19th, and let's see, you were invited on, yes,
How?
email, it would have came from Kevin.
Email. Already sent it to you.
I got it.
Yes, please.
You got it.
I did, yes, absolutely.
Livingston is confirmed, St. Helena is confirmed, West Feliciana, St. Helena, Tangipahoa, St. Tammany are all confirmed. So it went out. So might have went to your junk mail or something. It was a while back.
If I could just make a suggestion too, we meet monthly via virtual call, it's pretty well attended, at least this last one was. We also have a monthly newsletter that we proceeded to send out to all superintendents, so if you want to send that information directly to me, then I can put that in the newsletter, or also communicate.
Got it. Kevin, it would have came from your personal email or our constant contact?
It come from my email, la.gov.
I mean, it's kevin.colbert@la.gov.
I sent it to you.
Okay, any other comments, questions?
Thank you, Dr. Ward.
Okay.
I just want to congratulate Dr. Ken. He is our Louisiana Superintendent Association.
Superintendent of the year. Oh,
Superintendent of the year. I also want to say thank you to Dr. Gray, who is our past Superintendent of the year. So thank you for serving.
It's certainly a great honor on the full district is to represent, our public school systems throughout the entire state. So it's an honor for me. It's certainly a great distinction. So thank you for that nomination and vote of confidence. I also want to say, in light of Mr. Walker, happy Veterans Day, because I know we're all participating in quite a few Veterans Day events. So happy Veterans Day for Monday, and I hope you guys have a safe trip back. And I entertain a motion to adjourn. So Survivor, second, Dr. Gray. Thank you, and have a great weekend.
Yes. Are we confirmed?